Hey Cardfighters, Chris here from Vanguard Central, bringing you a Megacolony Stride Deck Profile. So the starter is going to be Crime Bug. Crime Bug, because it goes into the soul for free, so it's not going to use any counterblast, and a lot of the stride-based decks with using the GB2 units or stride breakers, whatever you prefer to call them, tend to go through a lot of counterblasts just by counterblasting one every time you stride. Speaking of the stride break, we have 4 Darkface, so he's going to be super good just locking down your opponent's field and also being able to interact with their opponent on their turn. When they call units, you get a Soul Blast 2 and rest them for his Generation Break 2, and that can be really devastating. Just locking off one of your opponent's plays or one of their key units that they're trying to call to get their stuff going. So the backup, I kind of wanted to try something other than Cyclomatooth, because I do think that it's a little bit, it's kind of like, I guess, what I would consider the standard way to play it, but ultimately the best other option would be the one where you call him and you counterblast one and then you paralyze one of their units. And I think Cyclomatooth does a lot better job at being a support for Darkface, just because he lets you be active. Like, okay, so crap, I missed Darkface, I'll ride Cyclomatooth, and then later I'll ride Darkface anyway, and then I'll get this awesome Vanguard stun effect off, right? That's super good, and it also actually helps build up the soul, right? Because if you think about how it normally works, you're gonna have your one, your 2, and then hopefully you'll get the starter in, so that's 3. But then Darkface's skill costs 2 each, right? So you only have 3. But if you break ride, you'll get that 4th one, which is super important. So sometimes I think it actually might be better to ride Cyclomatooth first, given the option. However, if you ride him first, you won't be able to take advantage of the Giga Paralyze every turn, and that is where our grade 2 is going to come in for Sweet Cocktail, who basically is when she attacks and is boosted, she's going to get to Giga Paralyze. So that's going to help keep our opponent's field down and keep up that pressure even if we don't have Darkface out. Next we have 4 Buster Mantis. So Buster Mantis is just going to be a 12k attacker, and that's very good because you don't need to commit as much to get your offense off, as well as being able to make 21 columns with certain special grade 1 units. And the last grade 2 we have is Machining Pepillo. Machining Pepillo is there mainly for the early game. Its low power means it's not that effective going into the late game, although you can make it work given the right field setup. But mainly what you're going to do is if your opponent rushes you, you're going to call Pepillo to the rear guard, you get to paralyze one of their units, and then hopefully swing in another one or something like that, but basically kind of slow down their assault so you can get set up, and that's the main purpose of this guy. For grade 1s, we have Star Shield, so the unflipping PG. As I said, you're going to go through a lot of counterblasts, so any unflipping that you get is going to be absolutely perfect. We have 4 Stride Fodders, just to help you stride all the time. As it is a stride-based deck, you don't really have any Vanguard effects outside of striding, so you're going to want to keep striding every single turn. And that is where these come in handy, because if you use grade 3s for break riding, you're going to have, you want to use grade 3s for break riding and things like that, so you won't have as many to stride with, and so that helps out keep the striding going. We have 4 Scissor Finger. This is a 9k booster, so it's going to work in combination with the 12k attacker to make some good numbers and help push out games faster than it would if you're just grinding out with 16k columns. Lastly, we have 2 Brilliant Busters. I really like this card. It's a nice tech just having the 2 of, because it actually stops your opponent from restanding, and that can really catch people off guard if they don't think you're playing it. And it also can just shut down people if they decide to go for a restanding play and then they don't go for other skills that turn. Then you just get to stop that and say no restand for you. For triggers, we have 4 crit, 4 draw, 4 stand, their new Earth Dreamer stand, which is absolutely ridiculous, and 4 heal. So The stand is just going to let you keep powering up more and more cards, draw tons with that stand. But you have to be careful because your opponent does need 3 or more rear guards for its skill to activate. So it can also be used as a nice bait tool. And that's one thing I really like about the deck, is that you can bait pretty easily. Right, if you do a normal intercept or normal paralyze so that they can still intercept, you could call Earth Jammer and then they'll be baited to intercept even if it's a bad choice, just because they don't want you to get the draws off. So it can be a nice silly play, if you will. For the strides, we have one Blizza. The one Blizza is there to activate Darkface's Generation Break 2 instantly, and that can be really useful. Because say your opponent didn't really commit a lot to field, but they did get the first stride off. So the best example would be against Aquaforce. Your opponent didn't really call much. They're trying to like dodge your paralyzes, but they got to stride first. So then you're gonna go ahead, you're gonna Blizza, you're gonna get your GB2 active, and then if they try to call key units to go for like a Lambros play or a big play like that, then you're just gonna say, no, I'm gonna rest that one and save a whole lot of trouble for yourself. Next, we have 4 Paraspear. This card's pretty nuts. If your opponent has 3 or more rested, you get to draw a card. So it basically becomes a free stride. And it's just a super awesome way to just keep striding and keeping up your advantage while you're striding. No other real effects like that. It's a good one, especially with all the grade 3s and the stride fodders. You could probably just keep chaining them into each other. And with Darkface's skill, you can net even more cards and just kind of out card advantage your opponent, which is super good. And then lastly, we have the 3 Stun Beetle. 3 might seem a little weird at first, but because it needs to use its effect is obviously a persona flip, right? So you need to have one face down in the G zone to use its effect. But the weird thing about Stun Beetle is that you can only use it if it hits. So I like to have 3 rather than 4, because if you have right, so if you have, so you do the first one. We'll just go through it further. Do the first one, then yeah, it hits, and then you have 1 left, and you can use that for a Blizza or something like that. Or you can, you know, one thing I like about the deck, as I said, is the baiting. You can be like, okay, I'm gonna bait out a Perfect Guard because I don't have the 3rd one, the 4th one, but they don't know that, and so I'm just gonna try to go for it. So that's pretty funny. But then let's say if you miss the first one, you go into the second one, you still have 1 more to hit. But then if you hit this one and you had a 4th one, then you're missing 1. And you have like that 1 extra to use for Blizza. And I don't really like that as much. So I think 3 is a really good number, especially because another reason is because, as I said, the deck is Counterblast heavy, right? So being Counterblast heavy and also needing to leave 2 Counterblasts open just to pressure with this, you know, sometimes that can mess with the strategy that you want to go with. So having only 3 lets you have a bit more diversity in your strategy, and it's not just, let's do the Stun Beetle dance and hopefully it hits. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys liked the Megacolony Deck Profile. Look forward to seeing some matches with it. And as always, please leave a like. It helps out a lot. Comment down below if you have any questions, any thoughts about the deck. And please subscribe for more content. Vanguard Central, out.